The air crackled with a tension you could feel in your teeth, a quiet hum before a storm. "I told you, this is private property," I said, my voice low and laced with a tremor of pure, unfiltered fury. Mrs. Albright, our HOA's self-appointed queen bee, just laughed. A short, sharp, disbelieving bark that carried on the breeze. "Oh, please, Peter. You're never using it. It's a blight on the community. And besides, we're simply hosting the annual fundraising gala. Think of it as a community service." My knuckles, I noticed, were white. She'd not only broken into my barn, she'd filled it with 100 people, a full-on catering setup, and a live band all without so much as a phone call. The audacity. The sheer, breathtaking arrogance. My daughter, Lily, a sweet, soft-spoken kid who wouldn't hurt a fly, tugged on my sleeve, her eyes wide with fear. "Dad, don't." I knew what she was thinking. We'd been fighting this battle with the HOA for months, a slow, draining war of attrition, and she just wanted it to be over. But seeing my barn, the place my father had taught me to milk a cow and fix a fence, a place that held the sweat and legacy of 3 generations, now a backdrop for their champagne flutes and designer outfits. Something inside me just snapped. I didn't say another word. I turned, stomping through the freshly mown grass, the sound of my work boots a loud, rhythmic thud against the soft earth. The neighbor, a kind man named Frank who had always been a silent ally, called after me, "Peter, what are you doing?" I ignored him. My mind was a steel trap, locking onto a single, dangerous idea. My boots carried me to the far pasture, past the rusting tractor and the overgrown rose bushes. The herd of bulls, usually lethargic and docile in the afternoon sun, looked up at my approach, their massive heads turning in unison. They were my boys. Not pets, not friends, but a part of my land and my life. There was Hercules, the largest, with a thick neck and a gaze that seemed to hold a universe of calm wisdom, and his sons, Zeus and Apollo, all muscle and stubbornness. They'd been restless lately, sensing a shift in the weather. I unlocked the gate, the heavy iron rasping against its post, and a low, guttural murmur rumbled through the herd. "Go on, boys," I whispered, my voice thick with something like a prayer and a curse all at once. Time to go home. Back at the barn, the noise was deafening. The band was in full swing, a tinny, upbeat pop song echoing off the high rafters. The chattering of the partygoers was a frantic swarm of bees. Mrs. Albright, clipboard still in hand, was giving a speech, her voice amplified by a cheap microphone, talking about community spirit and shared spaces. What a joke. The bulls were an unstoppable force of nature, a silent, powerful tide of muscle and bone. They moved into the barnyard, a shadow cast over the pristine lawn, their breath pluming in the evening air. The first scream was a tiny, high-pitched thing, a teacup shattering. Then came the second, a full-throated wail, and then the chaos began. The partygoers scattered like startled birds, their expensive shoes slipping on the hay-strewn floor. "What on earth?" Mrs. Albright shrieked, her speech forgotten. Her eyes, filled with an incredulous rage, met mine. "Peter. Are you insane?" I just stood there, my arms crossed over my chest, a grim satisfaction settling deep in my bones. I didn't have to say a word. I just watched. Watched the panic scramble as they tried to find an escape. Watched as my bulls, now enjoying their freedom, snorted and lumbered and, yes, even knocked over a few tables laden with hors d'oeuvres. Then came the second twist, the one I hadn't even planned. The one that turned this from a simple act of revenge into a true, gut-wrenching drama. The fire alarm, which Mrs. Albright had disconnected to avoid false alarms from their smoking and grilling, started to wail. It wasn't a fire. It was something else. A frantic, terrified figure I didn't immediately recognize came bursting through a side door, their face streaked with soot and tears. It was Daniel, the quiet, hard-working kid who did odd jobs around the neighborhood. His family was struggling, and I knew he was working for the catering company to help them out. "Mr. Peter, he cried out, his voice hoarse. They locked us in the back room. They said we were unpresentable for the guests. The oven. It malfunctioned, and the exhaust fan they installed isn't working. The smoke. It's everywhere. My blood ran cold. The rage I'd felt seconds before evaporated, replaced by a sickening dread. Mrs. Albright's face went white. Not with fear, not with panic, but with a sudden, dawning comprehension of the legal nightmare she had just created. Her little, community service gala had now become a scene of negligence, of endangerment, and a potential criminal investigation. The confrontation that followed was nothing short of a spectacle. Frank, my neighbor, had called the police and the fire department. As the sirens wailed in the distance, I stood my ground, my hands shaking. Mrs. Albright, with all the bravado of a cornered predator, tried to put on a brave face. "This is an overreaction, Peter. A simple misunderstanding." I just stared at her, my gaze unflinching. "Misunderstanding? You broke into my barn, endangered the lives of your own catering staff, and now you want to call it a misunderstanding?" The bulls, surprisingly, had settled down, grazing on some spilled greens, almost as if they were a silent, stoic jury. The police arrived first, their lights a-flashing, violent punctuation to the scene. The fire department followed, and their professionalism was a stark contrast to the utter chaos of the party. They quickly assessed the situation, pulling a coughing and crying Daniel to safety, and dousing the smoldering oven. The tables turned, and the real drama began. The police officer, a stern-faced man with a notepad, started taking statements. Daniel, still shaken but now speaking with a quiet courage, told his side of the story. Frank corroborated my account. Then, Mrs. Albright made her final, fatal mistake. She tried to deflect, to blame me. "He released his dangerous animals. He's the one who created this panic." The officer, however, was not impressed. "Ma'am, we have multiple witnesses stating that you held a function on private property without permission, that you disabled a safety device, and that you locked staff in a back room. The dangerous animals are the rightful occupants of this property." The look on Mrs. Albright's face was priceless. The color drained from it entirely, leaving a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. The world she had so carefully constructed, a world of rules and regulations she enforced on everyone but herself, was crumbling around her. The investigation was swift and merciless. Mrs. Albright was charged with criminal trespass, reckless endangerment, and numerous other violations. The HOA, already facing a mountain of complaints and lawsuits from other disgruntled residents, imploded. The community, once cowed by her petty tyranny, found its voice. People came forward with stories of her petty abuses of power, her cruel and condescending remarks, and her flagrant disregard for anyone but herself. The fundraising money she had so brazenly collected was frozen, and the gala became a symbol of her spectacular downfall. As for me, the incident made me an unlikely hero. My barn, once considered a blight, was now a landmark, a symbol of resistance. I got countless thank yous, and the community came together to help me fix the damage to the barn. Even Lily, my sweet daughter, looked at me with a newfound pride. "You did the right thing, Dad," she said, her voice filled with a quiet admiration that meant more than any award or praise. The story became a legend in our small town, a cautionary tale about the abuse of power and the importance of standing your ground. It taught me that sometimes, a little chaos is necessary to reveal the truth, and that the most satisfying justice isn't a legal victory, but the restoration of your own sense of self-worth. It also made me wonder, after all was said and done, about the thin line between right and wrong. Was I right to lock them in, knowing the potential danger, even if it was born of righteous fury? Was the end of Mrs. Albright's reign worth the risk I took? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What's the line between justice and taking things too far? And was my barn the right place to draw it?